When a company reports $57 billion in quarterly revenue, I mean, that alone is going to capture global attention.
Oh, absolutely.
But the real story here isn't just the size of that number, it's the velocity.
Right.
We're talking about a record sequential jump of $10 billion quarter over quarter. That kind of acceleration, it just fundamentally changes how we have to view infrastructure spending on a global scale.
It absolutely does. And that's why today we are diving deep into sort of the financial heart of this whole phenomenon. We're focusing specifically on the opening remarks from Nvidia CFO Colette Kress from their Q3 fiscal 26 earnings call.
Right.
Our whole mission here is to really pull out the key financial insights, the monetary why that's underpinning this massive AI build-out that's happening right now.
And this analysis is so crucial for you because her commentary isn't just, historical reporting. It's a startlingly transparent forecast of where hundreds of billions of dollars of global IT and infrastructure spending is going to go in the next few years.
Exactly. Kress laid out the headline figure, $57 billion in revenue, up 62% year over year.
Okay, but here's the most important sort of philosophical takeaway I got from the CFO's comments.
What's that?
Despite these massive, massive figures, she explicitly stressed that the company sees itself as being in the early innings of 3 platform shifts.
Yeah, that part was amazing. AI, accelerated computing, and the move toward physical AI. That is such a powerful statement of confidence. It suggests this exponential growth curve is, just getting started.
Okay, so if we accept that premise, this early innings idea, then what's the payoff? What kind of market opportunity is Kress actually framing for the rest of the decade?
This is where the numbers she provided become almost unbelievable.
Go on.
They're massive. And she gave us 2 key markers. First, she gave current visibility for the coming years. They can already see $500 billion.
$500 billion.
Yes, $7.5 trillion in revenue based solely on their Blackwell and the upcoming Rubin architectures.
Wow.
And that's just tracking from the start of this calendar year through the end of calendar year 2026. So just 2 architectures over 2 years already locked in.
$500 billion in visibility.
Yeah.
So that confirms the demand isn't theoretical, it's like contractual, but that's just a fraction of the long-term goal, right?
Exactly. The long-term forecast is where it gets truly staggering.
Yeah.
Nvidia estimates that total global AI infrastructure build opportunity will eventually reach somewhere between $3 and $4 trillion.
By the end of the decade.
By the end of the decade.
Right.
And Kress framed this as the market they fully intend to dominate, positioning Nvidia as the superior choice for that entire investment pool because of their annual product cadence and their full stack performance leadership.
That's the strategic goal, but let's introduce some friction here. I mean, CapEx forecasts are notoriously volatile. Is Kress just betting the farm that they'll capture this massive market share, or is this confidence rooted in something more concrete?
It's rooted in their control of the data center segment. That is the undeniable engine of all this growth.
Okay.
That segment hit a record $51.2 billion in Q3. That's up 66% year over year. Kress called this a significant feat at our scale. But the most telling metric she offered was about the demand signal. The hyperscalers are, quote, sold out, and every single installed GPU, from the newest Blackwells all the way back through Hopper and even older Ampere chips, is reportedly fully utilized.
So everything they ship is immediately making money for their customers.
Right. The utilization rate is essentially 100%.
Okay, so if we look inside that $51.2 billion, how much of that growth came from pure compute power versus, say, the system infrastructure needed to connect all those GPUs?
That's a great question, and we saw a really interesting dynamic split. It proves they're controlling the whole data fabric, not just the compute silicon.
How so?
Compute grew 56%, mostly driven by the Blackwell GB300 systems ramping up, but the networking component, the switches, the cables, all that connective tissue, it more than doubled.
It doubled. Wow.
It shows really robust double-digit growth across NVLink, Spectrum-X Ethernet, and Quantum-X InfiniBand. And this is so critical because it validates their shift towards selling complete, integrated solutions, not just single GPUs.
So moving from the components to the consumers, the hyperscalers, the Amazons, the Metas, the Microsofts of the world, we know they're building big, but what's the specific financial justification driving this sudden massive wave of investment?
The justification is a fundamental transition away from classical sort of siloed machine learning apps to these unified, highly efficient generative AI models.
And that transition is driving infrastructure investment measured in
Hundreds of billions of dollars. And Kress specifically pointed to Meta. She explained that their new generative AI recommendation systems, which give you higher quality, more relevant content, lead directly to higher engagement.
Meaning users spend more time on Facebook and Threads.
Exactly. This is immediate, measurable, and monetizable ROI.
So it's not some futuristic investment, it's a current revenue generator. And that financial imperative must be why we're seeing these staggering projections for CapEx.
Absolutely. The aggregate CapEx forecasts for the top CSPs and hyperscalers in 2026 have just skyrocketed to roughly $600 billion.
And that's up from...
That's $200 billion higher than the forecast made at the start of this year. And Crest connected this forecast directly to their opportunity. She suggested this transition is expected to contribute to roughly half of NVIDIA's long-term market estimate.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. Connecting this explosive spend to the scientific model behind AI growth, what they call the virtuous cycle, governed by the 3 scaling laws. What are those, and why do they basically guarantee continuous demand?
It's the engine that proves AI is not a cyclical business, it's exponential.
Right.
The 3 scaling laws are pre-training, post-training, or fine-tuning, and inference. So pre-training means the foundation model builders, your Anthropics, your OpenAIs, they continuously need massive resources to create bigger, smarter models.
Okay.
Post-training is fine-tuning those models on customer data faster than ever. And then inference is delivering those intelligent insights instantly to the end user. All 3 drive continuous aggressive compute demand.
And Crest actually gave hard data proving this ROI is justifying that aggressive scaling.
She did. The growth of the foundation model builders is the proof point. OpenAI's weekly user base grew to 800 million with healthy gross margins.
And Anthropic.
Anthropic's annualized run rate revenue hit $7 billion. That's up exponentially from just $1 billion at the start of the year. That rapid revenue growth is what justifies their need to scale compute so aggressively just to stay competitive.
That acceleration is just incredible. Okay, let's pivot away from the huge cloud builders for a second and look at where agentic AI is hitting the ground in the enterprise sector. Where is this proliferation happening, and what kind of ROI is the CFO seeing there?
Crest highlighted that agentic AI, so AI that acts on behalf of the user, is providing immediate, unquestionable ROI for traditional enterprises.
Okay.
We are seeing user growth surges at companies like Cursor, OpenEvidence, Epic, and Abridge, because these tools are directly supercharging existing professional workforces.
And we're seeing deep integration across legacy enterprise software stacks now, too.
Yeah. Precisely. Enterprise giants like ServiceNow, CrowdStrike, SAP, they're integrating NVIDIA's AI stack right into their core products. Crest noted a great new partner example. Palantir is now leveraging CUDX libraries for its oncology platform.
A platform that used to run only on CPUs, right?
Exactly. It was only on standard CPUs. That signals a fundamental, critical shift in their core technology just to meet these new performance demands.
Which brings us to the measurable gains. We need concrete evidence to show why a CFO would approve millions in AI spend. What specific productivity gains did Crest cite?
She gave several really powerful, quantifiable examples. RBC is using agentic AI to drive significant analyst productivity, cutting report generation time from hours down to just minutes.
Hours to minutes.
Unilever is using AI and digital twins to accelerate content creation by 2x and cut their cost by 50%.
Wow.
And maybe most telling for the engineering crowd. Salesforce's engineering team saw at least a 30% productivity increase after adopting tools like Cursor for code development. The efficiency is just too high to ignore.
And that demand is translating into phenomenal physical scale. Crest noted these landmark AI factory and infrastructure projects announced this quarter alone, amounting to an aggregate of, was it 5 million GPUs?
5 million GPUs. The physical infrastructure required is just breathtaking. Key build-outs mentioned span every market, including xAI's Colossus 2, which he called the world's first gigawatt-scale data center.
A gigawatt-scale data center.
And Lilly's AI factory, now the pharmaceutical industry's most powerful data center. We also saw new partnerships solidify this, like AWS and Humane expanding to deploy up to 150,000 AI accelerators.
Right.
And xAI and Humane are jointly developing a dedicated 500-megawatt facility. This isn't just server racks anymore. This is utility-level infrastructure.
Let's transition now to the product roadmap and execution. The new architecture Blackwell is still ramping, but it's already the revenue leader.
It gained massive momentum in Q3. The high-end GB300 systems actually crossed over the GB200 systems and contributed roughly 2/3 of the total Blackwell revenue.
That's a fast ramp.
It is. But what's fascinating is the longevity of the platforms. The Hopper platform, now in its 13th quarter since launch, still recorded approximately $2 billion in revenue in Q3. That long lifespan demonstrates a fundamental TCO advantage for customers.
Okay, let's address the elephant in the room, the China issue, which Kress spoke about explicitly. Given all the market focus on geopolitical challenges, what did the CFO reveal about sales in that region?
This is a point of necessary friction. Kress reported that sales of the China-specific H20 GPU variant were only about $50 million in Q3.
50 million.
50. She starkly stated that sizable purchase orders never materialized in the quarter due to geopolitical issues and the, increasingly competitive local market in China.
Wait, $50 million. Given the total quarterly revenue of $57 billion, that's almost a rounding error. Is this a permanent structural loss for Nvidia, or is it just a temporary delay?
Kress implied it's a structural headwind, but she stressed their commitment. She noted that while they're seeing this loss of expected revenue, they remain committed to continued engagement with both the U.S. and China governments, advocating for America's ability to compete globally.
So the immediate financial guidance suggests they're now modeling their future without relying on major sales there.
That's right.
That explains the cautious outlook. Okay, looking ahead, we're already moving toward the next architecture, Ruben. What's the timeline and the expectation for this next X-factor leap?
The Rubin platform is on track to ramp in the second half of 2026.
26, okay.
And the Vera Rubin platform, which is powered by an ensemble of 7 chips, is expected to once again deliver an X-factor improvement in performance relative to Blackwell. And Kress really emphasized their mastery of the supply chain in building these complex rack architectures, ensuring the ecosystem will be ready for an incredibly fast Rubin ramp.
That X-factor improvement drives down costs for the customer, which brings us to the crucial TCO argument, total cost of ownership. Why is the CUDA ecosystem such a monumental advantage that it keeps customers locked in?
It really is all about longevity and the high cost of switching. Kress explained that the annual X-factor performance leap drives down computing costs for customers per operation. But the real moat is the software.
CUDA.
Right. The long useful life of CUDA GPUs provides a significant TCO advantage over competing accelerators. The powerful example she gave was that A100 GPUs shipped 6 years ago are still running at full utilization today, powered by vastly improved software.
Meanwhile, other accelerators without CUDA become obsolete.
Exactly. They become obsolete really quickly as model technologies evolve. The true cost is the inability to run the newest models efficiently if you step off that CUD train.
Which makes that initial multi-million-dollar investment feel far safer. Okay, let's circle back to that exploding networking segment we mentioned earlier.
It's truly astonishing. It's now the largest networking business in the world by revenue, $8.2 billion in Q3.
That's up how much?
Up 162% year over year. They are winning in data center networking because the majority of AI deployments now include their switches. And critically, Kress noted that Ethernet GPU attach rates are nearly on par with InfiniBand.
So their Spectrum-X Ethernet is seeing widespread adoption.
Widespread. It highlights its flexibility since it's being used by Meta, Microsoft, Oracle, and xAI for those huge gigawatt-scale AI factories.
And they don't just rely on sales numbers, they're constantly validating their product claims with technical superiority and benchmarks. What were the key findings Kress highlighted there?
The recent MLPerf training results were a clean sweep. Blackwell Ultra delivered a 5x faster time to train than Hopper, just dominating every benchmark.
And the important part there was?
The important part is that Blackwell was the only platform to leverage FP4 precision while still meeting the strict accuracy standards. That's the generational leap.
And the inference side is just as important, right? That's where the revenue is actually generated for the customer.
Absolutely. Kress cited the Semi-Analysis Inference Max benchmark, where Blackwell achieved the highest performance and lowest TCO across every single model.
Can you put a fine point on that leap?
Yeah. She revealed that on the complex DeepSeek R1 model, Blackwell delivered 10x higher performance per watt and 10x lower cost per token versus the previous H200. This is fueled by what they call extreme co-design.
Meaning they're designing the hardware and software layers as one unit.
As one single unit, which makes those performance gains structurally impossible for hardware-only competitors to even try to match.
And this technical prowess is clearly why they're also making strategic investments in the companies that are defining the future of AI models.
Yes, and Kress clarified their investment philosophy. She noted strategic partnerships with companies like OpenAI, focused on helping them build and deploy at least 10 gigawatts of AI data centers, sometimes paired with investment opportunities.
Right. And Anthropic is also now adopting their architecture.
They are. Both Grace Blackwell and Vera Rubin systems with a compute commitment initially including up to 1 gigawatt of capacity. It's about establishing a deep technology partnership.
So these investments, they're really about growing and controlling the ecosystem, not just purely financial bets.
Exactly. Kress framed it as a way to grow the Nvidia AI ecosystem, ensuring that every cutting-edge model runs optimally on their systems everywhere, which ultimately reinforces that high barrier to entry for their customers.
Before we move to the outlook, let's just briefly acknowledge the health of the other segments, which can sometimes get overshadowed.
Quick hits. Gaming was $4.3 billion, up 30% year-on-year, driven by Blackwell momentum.
Okay.
ProViz hit $760 million, up 56%, driven by DGX Spark, which they're touting as the world's smallest AI supercomputer. And automotive was $592 million, up 32%, notably partnering with Uber on the Level 4 robotaxi reference architecture.
So with all that, what guidance did the CFO give for the next quarter, and what's the major financial tension point for the coming year?
Q4 revenue is expected to be $65 billion, plus or minus 2%, which implies about 14% sequential growth. And importantly, that outlook explicitly does not assume any data center compute revenue from China.
So they've baked in those geopolitical headwinds.
They have. And gross margin is expected to hit 75% non-GAAP at the midpoint.
Working to hold a 75% gross margin while input costs and supply chain demands are soaring, that sounds like a massive operational challenge for fiscal 27.
Is the biggest financial challenge Kress outlined. She stated they're working intensely to hold gross margins in the mid-70s despite rising input costs. And to prepare for this significant growth ahead, they're increasing scale. Inventory grew 32% sequentially, and supply commitments increased 63% sequentially.
Gearing up.
They are gearing up for monumental growth, betting on their ability to deliver that X-factor performance leap to justify the high price point.
So if we synthesize all of Kress's remarks, the core takeaway for you is this. We are looking at sustained exponential growth driven not just by raw demand, but by strategic execution across the entire stack. From their exploding networking segment to the rapid, disciplined ramp of new architectures like Rubin, they control the ecosystem, and that controls the ROI.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the tightrope walk that Kress outlined is the crucial financial tension. Sustaining those massive mid-70s gross margins against rising input costs.
All while continually maintaining that X-factor performance leap.
Yes, the leap needed to drive down their customers' cost of computing. They have to make their architecture significantly better and cheaper per operation, even as their own costs rise dramatically.
That is a fascinating strategic dilemma. Here's a final provocative thought for you to ponder. Given the pace of these multi-gigawatt AI factory announcements, xAI, Lilly, and others, how long can the transition to agentic and physical AI continue to drive these vast infrastructure projects before the sheer cost and resource commitment, I'm talking power, water, and land availability, forces a systemic pause, or a shift toward vastly more efficient, smaller-scale compute models? Something for you to mull.